Hey, what's going on, guys? So this is just kind of like a quick. Well, I'll try and make it quick. How-to with Visual ME7 Logger. If you're not familiar with it, it does what the name implies. It's a visual logger for ME7. Um, a lot of people are still stuck on VCDS. And VCDS is cool and all for just quick data grabs, code reading, recoding of modules, stuff like that. But like, if you need like real fidelity, if you got like a hiccup in your tune or something like that, you need faster logging rates. And as you know, you log in 3 blocks on VCDS, you go from 12 samples a second at best to 2 or 1.5, which is unacceptable. Um, for instance, my second gear at wide open throttle when I shift from first to second, it only lasts like 2 seconds. So you mean to tell me I only got 2 or 3 samples of data in that time frame? You know, yeah, just completely unacceptable. So enter ME7 Logger, developed by some guys on Nefarious Motorsports. Um, really smart dudes. I can't imagine the amount of hours and you know that they had to put in to develop something like this. And it's still ongoing. There's always changes being made, and uh, the ME7 Logger GUI and the visual ME7 Logger that followed after that were created by other people who just went about their way, no money in it, to develop something that the community can use. So shout out to them for doing that. Um, I love it. I log over 40 variables at 30 samples a second. So it does what I need. I've been able to pick up a lot of little hiccups and stuff with that. And you can go faster. I think what I understand is the limit's somewhere around 50 samples a second, um, and up to 50 variables. I don't know if it'll do 50 and 50, but I don't need to try because I don't know if it'll just crash the program or it'll crash the ECU. And I'm not trying to risk that. So um, over 40 at 30 is good for me. And the default is 20 samples per second. So let's get this party started. The first thing you need to do is actually download the program. So if you go into Google and you search for Nefmoto Visual ME7, you're going to see this. But the first thing you need to do is actually pull down the ME7 program itself, because Visual is just an extension to this. All right, so even though this is a print page, I'll show you what you do. So the print page, it's pretty useless. So you go up here to your URL and you delete that action right there. This is action print page and the semicolon. Okay, hit enter. Ta-da. All right. I think you'll need to have an account on this forum to see these files at the bottom. But yeah, so pull down the 1.20. I think that's the latest one. Pull that down, save it to a directory. In my case, I'm using public. Who uses the public folder? I do. I'm using it. All right, so I put it down in here. The next thing you got to do is download the Visual ME7 Logger XE. So you go up here to the Visual ME7 Logger code explorer. Yeah, you do the same thing. Get rid of this. I don't know why Google pulls up print pages. All right, and you can pull it down off of GitHub. All right, and you need to put it in the logger directory, as it says. So look, here it is in my logger directory. Okay, so we got the program. Great. How do we use it? ME7 Logger is a command line program. That's, I guess, what they found the easiest to use. Um, Again, I'm not a programmer. I'm just now trying to learn like C++, and you know that's enough of a headache. So again, they're smart ass people. So kudos to them. It was a command line program. Someone saw the need to make a visual version so it's easier for people to use, and that's what they did. So shout out to those guys. Um, SBGLI, I think is the guy who made this. All right. So you're going to open up your command line, okay? Or you can use PowerShell, I think. But anyway, command line works. So go down here to search bar, type in command, bring up your command prompt, make it big. First thing you need to do is change your directory. All right. You're going to use an XE that's called ME7 Info. So you go to the bin folder. There's ME7 Info. So go ahead and change your directory. Okay. Copy this. Highlight. Control C for copy. Come over here. And to change your directory, super easy. CHDIR for change directory, space, and then paste in the new directory. Enter. Now your directory is this. Okay, I went from users me to users public documents, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Now, ME7 info, type that in. What it's going to do is now the command prompt's going to look for ME7 info in this directory. There it is. It's an XC. It's going to execute it. ME7 info gives you this. Tells you how to use it as usage. Type in ME7 info, then one of these commands if you need to. In our case, the only thing we're doing is creating an ECU file. That is a file that gives a variable name, alias, conversion factors, and addresses for every variable based on a standard ME7 map. For my ECU, it spit out like 190 variables. It'll vary based on your ECU, but it won't be all of them. Your tuner might need additional variables, which you'll have to enter in, and we'll get to that. But with that said, the second thing you need to do is get a stock bin file for your ECU. So you can use Nefmoto, the Nefmoto program, and you can read your ECU file, your bin off of there, and that'll be your stock read. Or maybe your tuner already has it, and he can send it to you. Okay. So have he or she send you the stock bin for your thing, and you're going to bring it into this. So the way you do that is you look at the usage, ME7 info, bin file. Okay, so we'll type in ME7 info, exactly in the same format, capital I, right? Space, and then you need the bin, and you need the extension as well. Okay. So if your files don't show your extension, if you go over here to view, file name extensions, make sure you click that. It's right here. Okay. So boom, or you can just type it in manually. Control A for all, and then Control C for copy. Come back over here to your command line and paste it in. Hit enter. Done. It read the map entries, it mapped 198 aliases, it wrote 723 definitions, and then it outputted it to this location. So, where's that location? It's in your ME7 logger directory. So back out one level, it's in the ECU folder. Here's your ECU folder. There's the file it spit out. You can open this with Notepad. Right? And when you open it with Notepad, this is what it looks like. It defines the communication and the identification of the ECU. Okay? Tells you measurements, conversion factors, yada, yada, yada. If you need to add a variable, for instance, let me find one that uses a bunch of similar data. One that I actually know. So, like this section right here, MIFA, MIFAB, MIGAS, MIGS, MEASL, it's all torque, calculated torque related. So let's say there is a variable that's not here, and I can't think of it right now, but I think it would be MIZOL, MISZOL. If you needed to add that in, you would put in the variable name, space, 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 comma, curly brackets if you have a name for it, an alias, for instance, engine positive torque or something, right? Put that in there. Then you put in the address that's given. Then you put in all this other stuff. And this conversion factor should be the same because it is a torque-based value, all right? But again, your tuner would give you that information that you need. And you just spit it in this line, and you control, and then you'd save it, file save, done. Right? You have now the variable added in that list. All right, so now that you've created this ECU file, now what? You open up Visual ME7 Logger. Yes. All right, and then You'll go File, Load ECU file. You'll navigate to that new ECU file you just created. There it is. You'll open it, right? And it'll populate this list. And it'll show up right down here, along with the communication speeds. All right? Then you'll go through here and you'll select a bunch of variables which you want to log, right? I already had a config file loaded in here, so you can see that I already have some variables selected. And if you want to see those, it looks like this. Show selected. If you need additional variables, like something with the throttle, right? Type in throttle. All right, throttle angle requested. I can log that. I can add that in. So once you're done selecting all the variables you want, temperature, whatever you might want, you select them all. You go up here to File, Save Config File As, and save it in your log directory. Okay, ME7 logs. Save it in there. I already have one. It's labeled Basic. All right. Well, two standards, one that I use on my personal car. Done. So now every time you open this program, it's going to load that config. So those variables will always be selected. All right. And if you need to change your config, you do the same thing. File, load config, and you change to a different config. All right. Next tab is expressions. If you need to set up some expressions where it takes a variable, applies an equation, and spits something out in the graph while you're logging, great, do that. In this case, I'm taking the Lamsoni variable, which is lambda, multiplying it times 14.7, and it spits out a number which is my air-fuel ratio. You can create expressions. I did that for bank 1, bank 2, and now I'm taking G's per second, converting it to pounds per minute. Reason why you can kind of infer how much horsepower a car is making based on how much air it's ingesting in pounds per minute. You know, for instance, 100 pounds per minute, it's like 1,000 horsepower. All right. It's just a rough guideline. Don't take it to heart, but it's just good to see, right? So those are expressions. Do know that these expressions do not become added to the log. They are just strictly for visualization when you're actually logging, and I'll show you that in a little bit. Graph data, if there are certain variables that you want to see, like actual see the line traces for, this is where you put that in. Okay, engine load, you can apply color, you can apply thickness. Really useful, like you know, you can change your knock color to bright red or pink or something that really stands out and give it a really thick line. Okay, and then if you're only concerned with knock when it gets like below -6, or in my case below -10, then you set your minimum. That way, you know, if you glance over to the graph while you're driving and you see a red line go all the way down to the bottom of the graph, that means it's at -6 or worse. All right, or lower. So it could be like -10. So that means it's pulling out 10 degrees of timing. That's not good. You need to stop. So this is why it's visual ME7 logger. You can see all this stuff while you're driving. All right, and you can save everything as a profile when you're done. Okay. Go up to options, go to settings, and make sure that you click on FTDI. All right, and you put in the port location. If you're unsure what this is, if you go to your device manager. In my case, I'm sitting on my couch, so I don't have anything hooked up right now, no cable or no nothing. But when you do have the cable up, for instance, Rostec or your generic blue OBD cable, you'll see it in this list. Those generic cables tend to show up under comms, I believe. So let's go over here to view that. Show hidden devices. Yep, ports and comms, right? In my case, it's right here. Okay, this device isn't connected right now, but this is the location for it. Port 002, hub 001. So you'll take that information, all right? Same thing with Rostec. The Rostec device will usually show up down here somewhere. All right, you'll take that information and then you'll put it here for location. All right. Write log to file, use default log file. So this will automatically spit out any log you start and stop to the log directory right here. And it'll give it this name. So if you made a config file labeled basic, like I did, it'll say basic, today's date, and the exact time to the second of where you started the log. That's how it'll save every time. If you need to change that for whatever reason, you can. All right. Override sample rate. Default is 20. And if you need to go higher, you can go higher. Again, I think 50 is the limit. You could type in more, but you run the risk of, I guess, crashing the program or crashing ECU. So 30 I found is plenty because otherwise the logs get really big really fast. All right. Yeah, I've done 46 variables at the speed with no issue. Okay. All right, make sure this is checked. All right. This will give you a log. Do I have it over here? I don't. It's in a different directory, but this will give you a log. So like if you have any errors or something, like you can go back and see the log and see what it was. Okay. That's it. So you'll start the log. Okay, error code 1 because I'm not connected to anything. All right. The only other thing with ME7 logger that I have found is I need to log into VCDS and I need to open up the engine module like I'm about to check my fault codes or something and then close it. And then I can start my logging session here with ME7 logger. I don't know why that is. I think it's some sort of handshake that goes on an ECU given permissions access or something like that, gateway access. Maybe someone smarter than me can explain that, but that's pretty much it. Once I do that, then my log will begin and you'll see your list in this light gray column over here on the left. And if for any reason there's something you want to see in the gray graph area, you'll double click on it. And you can click activate and it'll show up with that same this guy right here, the same format right here. So you can click on one of the variables in that list, you can activate it, you can give it a color and everything, and it'll show up in that graph. All right, so it'll show up here, okay? And if you set, like again, if your knock timing was -6, it'll be down here at the bottom, and etc. So that's it in a nutshell. All this stuff outputs as a standard CSV. So you can open it. You can open it with ECU plot. ECU XPlot. If you're not familiar with this, you could find this as well by searching Google. All right, and you can open the log up. All right, cool. I open the log. Yes, it calculates power. All right. You can put whatever you want in here and visualize it. Okay. So yeah, I was moving some airflow. This is where I maxed out my my math in the 4-inch housing, about 650 grams per second. All right. And the other program that I like to use is Megalog Viewer HD, which is this guy right here. And this one's pretty damn cool. I like this one a lot. All right. So the more you select, like once you get to 4, like I think I have it set up to only show 4 lines per section. So you can do this. It'll show you wherever the cursor, the blue line is, it'll show you the actual values for that. It'll show you the lowest value it recorded in the log and the highest value recorded in the log. All right. You can make a table, okay, based on value, okay. So this is basically saying, okay, RPM load versus timing correction. All right, so I can see where I'm pulling the most timing, what region. I can't change the what's the word I'm looking for? Can't change the color scheme, unfortunately, or if I can, I haven't found it yet. But anyway, yeah, again, useful. very useful stuff you can do with this program. I definitely suggest it to you guys. With this, you can create your own um, like visual variables, just like you could in the other program. Um, but it's again it's super useful calculating, taking millibar readings, converted to psi. Um, Here's my clutch condition, etc. So, without going too far into the weeds, again, I definitely would suggest you guys take a look at this program. It's pretty cool. And that's it. If you guys have any questions, just feel free to put them in the comments.